Hey guys, I just finished reading The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods about 2 nights ago or so. Essentially, it is a multiple POV dual timeline story where you are following Opaline. It starts in the 1920s. She's escaping an arranged marriage, so she runs off to first Paris and then Dublin, where she becomes an antique bookseller. In the current day, you are following Martha, who's just arrived in Dublin, escaping an abusive marriage, and Henry, who's also arrived in Dublin, there to do research on a lost manuscript, as well as find the Lost Bookshop itself. There's a chance encounter where Henry and Martha meet, and eventually they team up to not only find the bookshop, but also discover what happened to Opaline. Opaline's a little bit of an enigma. She's kind of completely disappeared from history, so they want to see, what became of Opaline. Did I like this book? Yes. I wanted to like it a little bit more, but I did like it. Do I think everyone's going to like this book? Probably not. It definitely falls under, I would say, magical realism. It does have elements of romance, mysteries, a little bit of fantasy sprinkled in, and I think the premise was there. Like, it's a great idea. I mean, basically a living, breathing bookshop. I really liked the concept of Opaline. I think one of the things that the author did particularly well in this novel was mesh the timelines together. So for example, as something was occurring in Opaline's timeline, whether it was the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, Martha and Henry were just discovering that in their own timeline. So I thought the timelines fit together very nicely. What I wasn't crazy about in this book was the ending. So I very much, as a reader, like to know that things are tied up neatly with a bow, and I felt that the ending in this book was a bit ambiguous, and not ambiguous in a way that I think there's going to be a second book. I think it was done intentionally so that the reader can kind of interpret how they think things have played out. But it did, I don't know, the ending just, there were too many unanswered questions. So mild spoiler here, so if you don't want to know anything, don't listen to this part. But essentially it's kind of like, well, why does the bookshop only appear to certain people? Again, I can intuit a reason, but it doesn't really clearly say. Madame Bowden, who is she? Why is she maybe who she is? Or maybe, like, who is she, right? I was a little confused at that. I loved Madame Bowden as a character, but I just felt that there were so many unanswered questions by the end of the book that I was a little bit frustrated. I think there was a lot going on in this book. And there were a few twists at the end, some of which I saw coming. There was one that I was a little bit surprised about, and so I thought that was kind of neat that I didn't necessarily see that one coming. I think I will reread this book. I suspect that on my second read there's going to be things that I catch that I didn't necessarily catch the first time around, and that, it might help increase my enjoyment of the book. But on my initial read, if I had to give it stars, like if I absolutely had to, I would say 3.5 on my Goodreads. I did round up to 4. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun book. It was kind of, like I said, it blends magical realism, so you have to know that going in, with a little bit of love, a little bit of romance, a little bit of historical fiction. I was really invested in Opaline as a character, and I really, really wanted to know, what was the outcome. Did she get that kind of completely happily ever after? And I did feel that that was a little bit ambiguous. So I'm glad I read it, but will I read it again? Yes, but it might not be for everyone.